Yes, indeed. Recently, the opening cinematic for Dark Souls 3 was debuted. The trailer goes into a lot more detail than anything previously released about the events that will unfold with the upcoming addition to Dark Souls' third installment. So first off, I'm going to let the trailer roll without cutting or talking about it. I've added subtitles so it's easier to understand, and then after the trailer plays out, I'm going to go back and talk about the significance and meaning of the opening cinematic to Dark Souls 3. So, let's get watching.
Yes, indeed. It is called Lothric, where the transitory lands of the Lords of Cinder converge. In venturing north, the pilgrims discover the truth of the old words. The fire fades, and the lords go without thrones. When the link of fire is threatened, the bell tolls, unearthing the old Lords of Cinder from their graves. Aldrich, saint of the deep, Farron's undead legion, the Abyss Watchers. And the reclusive lord of the profaned capital. Yhorm the Giant. Only in truth, the lords will abandon their thrones. And the unkindled will rise. Nameless, accursed undead, unfit even to be cinder. And so it is that ash seeketh embers.
Okay, so first off, the trailer immediately harkens back to Dark Souls 1, not just because it has the same omnipotent female narrator, but also because it's laid out in the same fashion. In one short paragraph, the opening tells a ton of narrative and lore while alluding to the story ahead. Also, by naming these pivotal characters in the cinematic, like Seeth and Nito from Dark Souls 1, or Farron and Aldrich from Dark Souls 3, it makes these characters feel so much more profound and impactful when you finally encounter them in-game. You simply know it's something important when it happens. Alright, enough of the overall format though. Let's jump into the individual specifics of the opening.
Yes, indeed. It is called Lothric, where the transitory lands of the Lords of Cinder converge.
This first line here is extremely important, specifically the part that says Lothric, where the transitory lands of the Lords of Cinder converge. The key word being transitory, which means not permanent, passing away, or brief in duration. By stating Lothric is where the transitory lands of the Lords of Cinder converge, it's basically stating that this is the same plot of land where many Lords of Cinder have become just that, a Lord of Cinder. regardless of the fact that the land has altered over time. Now, if you don't know what a Lord of Cinder is, it's basically a title given to a powerful being that has linked the first flame, and in the process basically forfeits their soul and becomes a hollow of their former self. So overall, this one sentiment means that this plot of land is a transitory land, and it has changed shape multiple times, like from Lothric to Drangleic to Lothric, and maybe many different alterations in between from various Lords of Cinders across eons. And the next line of the cinematic pushes this same mentality further.
In venturing north, the pilgrims discover the truth of the old words. The fire fades, and the lords go without thrones.
So basically, this is stating just that. Pilgrims venture forth and learn the truth of all these words, meaning the different prophecies of Drangleic, Lothric, and any other realm we may not know yet. And the part that says the fire fades and the lords go without thrones is basically stating that these powerful beings use their soul to link the first flame, becoming a hollow to link the flame, and then there is no longer a lord to sit on the throne. At this time the cycle begins again. The first flame begins to fade and needs a new monarch.
When the link of fire is threatened, the bell tolls, unearthing the old Lords of Cinder from their graves.
Now this is probably my favorite line in the whole thing. When the link of fire is threatened, the bells toll, unearthing the old Lords of Cinder from their graves. Basically it's saying when the first flame is in danger, bells ring and then the Lords of Cinder are resurrected. What makes this line so cool to me is that in Dark Souls 1, part of the Undead prophecy is to ring the Bells of Awakening. Originally we thought it was to gain audience and entrance to Anor Londo, the City of Gods. Well, we now know that these bells must be rung to awaken the old Lords of Cinder from their graves. So what if we unwittingly resurrected Gwyn in Dark Souls? This part suggests that the bells from Dark Souls 1 could have been another ploy by the primordial serpents, or a deception set in motion by GWYN'DOLIN, Gwyn's son and sole heir to the throne. Now since Dark Souls 1 is the first game, and at that time Gwyn was the only current Lord of Cinder, he would have been the only one resurrected. But in Dark Souls 3 it would seem that many cycles have passed and there's been many Lords of Cinder, as the cinematic then goes on to name off the various Lords of Cinder that will be resurrected when the bells ring.
Unearthing the old Lords of Cinder from their graves. Aldrich, Saint of the Deep. Farron's Undead Legion, the Abyss Watchers. And the reclusive lord of the profaned capital. Yhorm the Giant.
So first off, obviously Yhorm the Giant clearly looks like the Lord of Giants from Dark Souls 2. Probably not the exact same giant, but it's more than likely the same race who came to power and linked a flame to become a Lord of Cinder. Also, backing up a bit, Farron's Undead Legion, the Abyss Watchers, are holding swords of Artorias. Now the swords aren't quite as ornate as Artorias' great sword, but it's clearly the same hilt, and the fact that, they're called the Abyss Watchers points to Artorias. Now, as for Aldrich, I have no idea. He definitely reminds me of the black ooze monsters from Demon Souls, and it looks corrupted by the Abyss in some fashion, but I really don't know what to make of this blob. It does look like there's some armor or crown submerged in the tar-like creature though. The next part speaks to these Lords of Cinder and their relation to the unkindled.
Only in truth, the lords will abandon their thrones. And the unkindled will rise. Nameless, accursed undead, unfit even to be cinder. And so it is that ash seeketh embers.
So from the Dark Souls 3 server stress test, we know that instead of consuming humanity or human effigies to enter multiplayer, reverse hollow, and kindle bonfires, you now crush embers. And when doing so, you become kindled, and beforehand you're unkindled. So the part stating, "and the unkindled will rise, nameless, accursed, undead, unfit even to be cinder." This basically means we're playing the part of the unkindled, like in Dark Souls 1 when we were the chosen undead, and then in Dark Souls 2 we were the cursed undead. Now we are the unkindled. So basically this means we're ash and we seek embers. Alright guys, that's about it for this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Also leave a like if you enjoyed the video. It goes a long way with the success and searchability of videos here on YouTube. It helped me out a lot and I'd really appreciate it. Lastly, don't hesitate to check out my other Dark Souls content and subscribe for more in the future. Alright guys, thanks a lot and I'll see you in the next one.
The balance between light and dark, life and death.
I'm going to show 2 new areas, new enemies, and a new boss, and talk about the possible lore implications as well. Meaning weapon strikes, attack, moveset combinations, the kick, the parry, the repost, the backstab, running, rolling, plunging attack all feel exactly like they're ripped from Dark Souls 1.